I just wanted to give, I'm afraid, a little bit of data, but it's very, very high level, just to give a bit of a picture of what the employers are thinking based on some research that we've recently done, but also what individuals are saying. And I've actually picked on some research from HSBC. And as we've got two people here from HSBC, I'm going to have to make sure I get it right, I think. Just to start with, a survey we did tail end of last year, which was primarily to large employers, over 100 employers responded. You're all going to get one of these. Actually, it's not a very big document, you'll be pleased to hear, so it's not going to burden you too much on the way back to your offices. But it does give some highlight some key figures around this space. But I've just picked out 4 of them for the purposes of this presentation that I think are particularly important. The first one is people just not saving enough. So this is the view of the employer, remember, not the employee. So employers believe that only 16% of their employees are saving enough. So clearly there's a recognition out there that more needs to be done now that we're in the DC world. I guess auto-enrollment will help with that to an extent, but of course auto-enrollment isn't the total solution because of the relatively low contribution levels. The next one is around people's awareness of the retirement income options available. So there's been a lot of discussion this morning around what those options are, how actually it's quite tricky, it's quite complex, and people do not understand them. Employers are saying that they believe only 18% of their employees are aware of the various income options available to them at retirement. Which I don't know about people around this room, but I mean, I just think that is absolutely shocking. And I think one of the reasons I think it's most shocking is that pensions are often stated as the biggest benefit that an employer will provide. But of course, it doesn't actually become a benefit until you do something with it. So you save into this thing for perhaps 40 years, and actually you've seen no benefit whatsoever. It gets to the point when actually you would like to see some benefit. And unfortunately, people are arguably abandoned, but actually if they have some direction, often that direction is very polarised, and it's often polarised around annuities, so people are not actually understanding the real choices that perhaps they have. If you drill down into that a little bit more and you look at the annuity option specifically, employers believe that only 13% of their employees are aware that they no longer have to buy an annuity. Now, I guess to an extent you could argue this is not surprising because we have had the pension providers, the insurers, sending out the retirement packs, just sign here for our annuity. So I guess it's just become default. So perhaps it's not surprising that this number is so poor. But clearly in the new world, this has to change. People need to understand that there is more beyond, that there is more than just annuities. And I think this is the last one from our survey, and I think this is a very interesting figure, and interesting given your comment, Peter, that you made a few moments ago. Overall, 71% of employers believe there will be an increased requirement for specialist advice at retirement, and I think the reason that people are now beginning to say this is because of the comment I've made at the top. This is the biggest financial decision that most people will make in their lives. People used to say that about mortgages, didn't they? They used to say biggest financial decision is getting that big mortgage. But actually with mortgages, you can change your mortgage provider, you can pay down, you have actually got flexibility there. When it comes to retirement, if you go down certain roads, as we've heard, perhaps go down the annuity road, actually that is it. That is it actually to the day that you die. So it is a massive financial decision for a lot of people, a lot of employees. So in some ways, I'm not surprised that this is now up at 71%, but it is a real sea change to where it used to be. If you went around asking this question, 4 or 5 years ago, you would not have got anywhere near 71%. So it is quite interesting that employers are now starting to look at this advice piece in a slightly different way. Although I have to say, Peter, I mean, this is clearly not the employer providing that regulated advice. That is giving it to a company like ours or whomever it may be. So that was the view of, some highlights, as it were, from the employer survey that we did late last year. HSBC also did some research at looking at individuals. so I've put this in really as a comparison. This was, again, research done tail end of last year. 1,000 respondents in the UK, although there is actually a global report that HSBC have done. Haven't included those figures, but if you're interested, if you have remits outside of the UK, it could be interesting to look at. And again, I've just pulled out a couple of things that I personally found particularly interesting. The first one was respondents expect their retirement to last for 19 years, but they accept that their retirement savings are only going to last for 7, which I find kind of interesting conceptually as to, well, you know, what are they doing about that? And then looking at what level of income they want in retirement, they want their retirement income to replace basically 3/4 of their income, which is a phenomenally high figure, actually much higher than one of the figures that was given, which was given earlier. But it does demonstrate to me that just through those 2 bullet points, that there is clearly a big mismatch between what people want and actually what they're doing to get there. The other thing that I found quite interesting in the HSBC study with individuals was the impact of financial planning. And the way that they looked at this was to try and identify whether there was a strong relationship between financial planning and people saving more. And I guess, unsurprisingly, perhaps, the answer is yes, there is a correlation there. But what I found particularly interesting was actually what do they actually mean by financial planning? And the way that this was done for HSBC, they effectively divided it into 3 categories. They talked about informal financial planning, formal financial planning, and regulated financial planning. So informal to them was, you know, I'm kind of thinking about this. I think I might save £200 a month. So I'm kind of creating a bit of a plan in my mind, but it's quite informal. Formal planning was literally, they're not going to a regulated advisor at all, but they're sitting down, they're going through perhaps what they can get through the benefit provision within their companies, they're writing down their income, and they're coming up with a plan, and they're reviewing that plan periodically. This research suggested that they are likely to have 4 times the retirement income than those who have not planned if they go through that informal or formal planning process. If they actually go through a regulated planning process, that increases again by 2.5 times. So it's interesting to note that actually, whether it be informal or formal, that actually putting these processes in place does have real impact, if this research is to believe, I'm sure it is, does have real impact on ultimate outcomes. So what can we do? What can we do about it? As an organisation, we've been looking at this for a while. Clearly, there's been a lot of changes happening in this space with the removal of default retirement ages, the fact that people are now becoming more aware that there is an open market option with annuities, but perhaps they don't understand much more beyond that. But for us, it's you've got to get this decision right. This is not a decision, unlike those lovely platform shoes, that you can afford to get wrong. So very simply, we've just put it into 5 component parts, which to a degree are a little bit a mix and match, but I'll just briefly go through them. Financial education. Financial education to us is a non-regulated activity. It's the sort of stuff that we do for Neil, and he talked through earlier, where we're really going in, talking to groups of employees, normally on some sort of segmented basis, as Neil described, and we're just talking about options, we're just talking about pros and cons at a generic level of those different options. But the whole idea is people will understand that there are options, and they will understand generically that there are some pros and cons with all those options. That may be supported with internet tools, so people can go back to their desks or they can go home that evening and have a play around with some of those tools. So, for example, we have an annuity tool. Now, you can't actually buy anything through this annuity tool, but it's real time. It links into all the major annuity providers, and it just allows individuals to fill in some simple data. They can actually put in medical questionnaires and all the rest of it, and it will give them, if they were buying today, this is what you may get as an annuity. But we don't allow them to buy, so it is there just purely as a tool, just really trying to inform them as to what their pension pot could buy. Help desk support. So this is very difficult often for companies to have in-house because pension departments are often very small, even in large companies. So it's actually having a backstop, if you will, where employees can call us and actually, again, on a non-regulated basis, we can just talk them through high-level options, things perhaps they should be thinking about doing. But when it actually comes to, right, well, I think I might want to retire, whether that's phased retirement, full retirement, the service we now offer is allowing those individuals to contact us, and we will actually go through those options with them on an advised basis. But what that advice looks like really depends on what assets they have. So do they simply have a very small pension pot, let's say £30,000, they don't have anything else, they don't have any other savings or investments, then we might say to them, well, we will take you through a process where actually maybe an annuity is the right thing, but we're going to hold your hand through it, we're going to make sure all the questionnaires are filled out correctly, and we're going to go to the open market, and we're going to try and find you the best rate. Equally, somebody could call in, and it transpires they've got a couple of DC pots, which are quite large. Maybe they've got a DB from earlier in their career. Maybe they've got stock from their company. Maybe they've got other investments, where actually the calibration of how they're going to generate retirement income is a lot more complex. And so we will say, well, you do need advice, but perhaps it's better that you sit down face-to-face with someone and receive that advice. And the reason that we've gone down this advised route, whether it's the if you like, the quick and easy advice over the telephone, or whether it's the broader route face-to-face, is because we think you cannot afford to get these decisions wrong. So actually, when you've been saving for 40 years and you're going to make a decision which could stay with you to the day you die, the best thing you can do is get advice. That's me. Thank you very much.